The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, E-Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have a very special guest. Everyone would know her. Kavi Kardos from ClientBoost. She's the Director of Organic Growth at ClientBoost. So, hey, Kavi, how is it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, yeah, good. Can't really complain. Kavi, before we move any forward, obviously you need no introduction, but let our audiences know what has been your journey. How did you land up in the digital marketing niche? And we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's very nice of you. So I have been in SEO and content marketing for about 11 years now. I got my start working in Austin, Texas, which is where I'm based now, in link building primarily, and then moved on to learning the back end of SEO, learning a little bit more about technical and getting really heavy into content marketing as well in my early years of my career. Since I started out in an agency role, I've held several in-house roles, wide variety of companies, entertainment, SaaS, cybersecurity, all kinds of things. I am now back on the agency side and happy to be back at agency. Definitely more going on here and really focusing a lot on technical SEO and especially content marketing now. So kind of going back to my roots in agency and in content marketing these days with ClientBoost. So it's been a long ride, but I'm excited to be where I am now.
Lovely, lovely. Quite a journey, I must say. You speak at a lot of conferences, Kavi, and we also met at the SEO Mastery Summit recently.
Yep.
For our audiences, how is it like, taking up stage and owning it for 30, 40 minutes, 1 hour? We'd like to hear that from you.
Yeah, I love it. It's my absolute favorite thing in the world. I was in theater in high school, so I've always had the stage bug and wanted to be on stage and enjoyed performing and all of that. And it's kind of like that. I really, really enjoy it. But my parents are both teachers as well. And I come from a background of wanting to teach and wanting to help explain things to people in ways that they can understand. And I get a lot of joy out of that too. So I can't get enough of it. Always looking for somewhere else to pitch.
Nice, nice. Now coming to your career, Kavi, you have worked with Moz. You have worked in the product space, right? And now you're in an agency kind of heading SEO, right? So how it kind of helps you to have that knowledge from a product background perspective and then, doing the SEO strategy for your clients and doing SEO at large?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was at Moz for about 3 years. I started out on their learning and development team and then moved into SEO Manager position there. Obviously, while I was there, I got to learn from some of the most brilliant minds there are in SEO, from Brittany Muller and Cyrus Shepard and Dr. Pete and Tom Capper and everybody who's still there, and some who aren't. But I really enjoyed not only learning from those people directly, but also getting to see, like you said, the back end of how these tools are put together, and especially what our customers were asking for, types of requests that we got from in-house customers and big agencies and that sort of thing too. So learning what was important to people on the product side really helps me to understand, the direction that the industry is going, and sort of helps me keep my head on straight when it comes to what should be prioritized even in our own strategies for our clients.
Absolutely. Looking at the back end of the product gives you so much of, that mindset of what is required, how is it being built.
Yeah.
Like you said, customization requests from these agencies, and those can be very specific from client, industry to industry. That kind of, gives you so much of learning in terms of how, the SEO geeks kind of look at it, what all data points is necessary, and customization of reports, right, for different agencies and all of that. That kind of gives you really a head start, and would have definitely helped you when you, kind of grew into your agency role, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. And there's, everyone has a different opinion too. So there's a lot of sorting through these different opinions to happen. But we learned to find patterns in what people were asking for. And especially with things like report customization, I saw a lot of stuff within the Moz product change over the years that I was there when it came to reporting. And that was something I think they got a lot better at during those years for sure.
Lovely. All right, moving on to the next one. Kavi, this is the one I love the most, when I hear you speak. Your emphasis on how SEO should serve users, the people who consume content versus the algos, the search engines, right? So give us more about it. How do you think about it? And what is your take on this? Mistakes that brands generally do when approaching SEO, just thinking about Google or any search engine metrics there?
Yeah, for sure. This is something I hit on pretty hard at the conference where we met at SEO Mastery Summit. Just the idea that modern SEO should really be serving your users and not the search engines. We find that when we get new clients coming to our door, they tell us a lot about what they're looking for. And it's often, we want to rank number one, or we want to be on the first page of Google for these 10 keywords or whatever. What sort of manipulation are you going to do to our website to make sure that happens? Where are you placing keywords? All that sort of thing. And it's not that that mindset is incorrect, but it is outdated with all of the changes that Google and other search engines are constantly making, especially in the realm of AI these days. The Google product itself is very volatile. It's hard for us to predict where you're going to land on the search engine results page, even if you are number one or whatever, So knowing that we can't control what Google does and we can't control the changes that are made there, it's really important for us to focus instead on what the user is trying to get out of your website. And, ask ourselves, are we serving that need? Are we answering the questions that they have and helping them solve their problems before we think about, are we doing what Google wants to see? Because a well-organized website and one that has genuinely helpful content is far more valuable than something that's trying to manipulate the search results.
Absolutely. Helping kind of sending a clear message to, let's say, me as a consumer, or maybe a, potential buyer of your product or service. I should actually know, what are you offering? And, it should be crystal clear in terms of, when I go to your website, the message should be loud and clear, right? Versus creating content which actually serves the search engine algos that I kind of, love the way you presented it. So great. And you touched upon AI, which is, has been the topic to be discussed all this while for the last couple of years now, right? And the storm is, kind of ever growing, right? The speed at which it is growing is enormous. So what is your take on it? Where do you think are we heading with all of this AI madness? Think about it. Machine learning is something which no one is even talking about now, right?
Yeah.
Processing of data and all of that. So what is your take on all of this?
You're opening a can of worms. I have a lot of opinions. I did a talk on this topic at Women in Tech SEO in Philadelphia last year, and I'm speaking about it again in September. I look at this from two sides. On the one hand, it's not going anywhere, right? AI is here to stay. It is going to forever change the way that we use search engines and every other tool that we use, honestly, in the realm of SEO. So I acknowledge it is not going anywhere, and it is our responsibility to figure out how to use it as SEOs. But I think that a huge part of deciding how we're going to use it and how we interact with it is understanding that we have a responsibility to use it responsibly. And for me, that means finding the workflows that you really need, where it's really servicing you, and leaving the sort of fluffy stuff aside. There are a lot of ethical concerns when it comes to AI, primarily around, environmental and the amount of electricity and water that it takes to run their tools and everything. And also the way their models are trained can be not so great on the people who are training them. So a lot going on there. And I don't think that's to say that we should kick it to the curb, but I do think that means that we need to figure out how to use it in the way that's really serving our users and consuming that energy responsibly. We do use generative AI in our workflows, but we try to minimize that use and only put it to work when it's something that we really need. So we won't turn to it and say, write a full article for me, but we might say, okay, let's write an outline together or something like that.
Yeah. And then what is the best use of AI that you're making at ClientBoost, or let's say, something that you're really excited about, any tool or any use of AI?
Yeah, I would say our most common use of it right now is in creating outlines. We use Google Gemini quite a bit for outline creation. And I've found that, when you start to have it write full text for you, it starts to sound a little bit repetitive and a little bit of the same as everything else that's on the internet, which makes sense because that's the model that it's trained on. But when we think about, organization of thoughts, it's really good at helping you take what you've spit out at it and organize it into like an outline that makes sense. So one of our writers or one of our editors can go in and say, I want to talk about all these different things and just kind of throw it at the wall. And it's really good at streamlining that and making it make sense, and also making sure that we're not leaving anything out of that topic that we're trying to cover. So that's been our strongest use case for it so far.
Lovely. All right. Now let's talk about, jobs to be done content, Kavi, how can we leave you without talking about that? So what led you to adopt this approach, and how does it shift the way brands create content?
Yeah, it's I think it's really a common sense approach to content creation, but one that people don't really think about right off the bat because it doesn't feel like it's serving the traditional SEO concern of keywords and keyword placement and all of that. We don't really do a ton of traditional keyword research in order to develop our jobs to be done content strategies. We use keyword research as a supplement, but to justify using one phrase over another or something like that. But when it comes down to it, jobs to be done is about identifying your audiences, and your website may very well have more than one audience, most do, and then learning from the teams that know that audience best what their jobs to be done are. So that could mean questions that they're trying to answer, concerns that they have, maybe frustrations with a competitor's product that they've been using, or opinions that they need reinforced. All of those are jobs to be done. And so when we talk to, say, a customer service team or a product team or sales team or something like that, they know what kinds of questions customers are asking and what their concerns are. We can make a list of those and then brainstorm content that serves those jobs. So instead of just, if you're a SaaS product, instead of just talking directly about what the software does, you're answering questions that kind of surround the product itself. So the example I always use is I had a friend who developed a SaaS product that was essentially a layaway plan for really expensive software. So if you really needed Salesforce, but it was way too expensive for your organization, he would let you pay for your Salesforce subscription over several months instead of paying it all at once. And so for that, you can write content that speaks directly to what the product does, but you can also answer questions like, why is Salesforce so expensive? Or concerns like, budgeting tips for small to medium businesses and that sort of thing. So it tends to hit a lot more of that top and middle of funnel audience, but then it helps draw them down to your product in a way that really makes sense.
Absolutely. Informational and educational content is so important, right, for the audiences at large, rather than just talking about product that you have versus the niche overall, right?
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense and grabs more eyeballs, actually. Come to think of it, you would have a more larger audience when you talk about, for example, in this particular example, talking about CRMs versus just talking about, the other things. So yeah, that completely makes sense. Perfect, Kavi. And moving on, talk us through ClientBoost. I mean, you would obviously, handling quite a few teams there, and ops. And what is this for other agency owners, our audiences today? How do you kind of ensure that the business processes are kind of, operating at the optimum? How do you ensure that the efficiency is, on the curve line in terms of moving up always?
This is a good time to ask this question. ClientBoost is actually going through a lot of change right now, which I'm sure is true for a lot of agencies in, the time that we're in. We are really learning how to dial in those operations processes. We are hiring a new person into that ops role, so that's really exciting.
Exactly where we are at as well.
Yeah, that's really, I see, this is what I'm saying. There's a ton of agencies doing this right now. And we were founded at a time when it was a lot easier to just sort of hit the ground running and get your clients in the door and then start working. And we started as a paid search agency primarily and made a ton of money doing that. And then sort of we're going so fast that we didn't have time to slow down and work on things like operational processes and that kind of thing. So now, many years later, we're dialing in, our P&Ls, our budgeting, making sure that our revenue is on track and really standardizing processes in a way that we have not before. So it's a really good time to be at our agency, but also in agency in general, I think. A lot of maturing going on.
Absolutely. I mean, we are going through a similar process, a lot of restructuring. So yeah, I can relate to that. Perfect, Kavi. One thing, if you could go back in time and give advice to your younger self when you were just kind of starting in SEO, what would it be?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice at this point would be stop overthinking everything. I think when people are fairly new to SEO, you have this idea that there's a correct way to do things, you get really dedicated to learning that correct way and making sure that you're doing everything exactly right and like overthinking your keyword research and your coding and all of that stuff. SEO is such a creative pursuit and it's got so many different correct ways of doing things. And I think some of our biggest innovations in this space, like jobs to be done content, for example, has just come from people people trying new things and not worrying about what's correct or what Google wants, and instead just trying to be innovative and creative and, coming up with new solutions to serve customers. So yeah, I think I would tell myself not to worry so much about what everybody else is doing, and instead just, think about it from like a psychological and creative point of view instead.
Lovely. Nice. Great, Kavi. This has been a brilliant conversation. But before we let you go, I would like to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're
Okay.
game.
Yep, that sounds great.
All right. Your last Google search.
My last Google search, directions to a comedy show that I went to last night.
All right. That is an honest one. Okay. What did you do with your first paycheck, Kavi? First paycheck of your life?
My gosh, I was working at a dog grooming center. I probably paid my rent. That would have been in college. So I was probably paying rent and maybe buying myself lunch at the university cafe. Nothing too exciting.
We all did that, right? And the paychecks were not huge to buy a car
Definitely
or something really extravagant, right? So yeah. Okay. All right. Your celebrity crush.
I have so many of these. Let's see. I'll go with Adam Driver. He's the big one right now.
Okay. All right. Where do we find Kavi on Friday evenings after office or, after doing those SEO trickeries for your clients?
I am a huge karaoke fan. I also love bar trivia. I host bar trivia as sort of a side gig, and I'm a poker player as well. So probably one of those places getting into trouble.
All right. Next we meet, we play poker for sure. We missed that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. The last one, Kavi, will not kill you any further. Which day are you most excited about right now?
I'm getting married in November, so I'm definitely most excited about that. November 8th. So it's coming up faster than I think. So I'm really excited about it, but a lot to do between now and then too.
Lovely. Congratulations,
Thank
Kavi,
you.
For that. It's a special feeling. Lovely. Great, Kavi. Thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us. And for our audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
My website is kavikardos.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn, and the only Kavi Kardos on LinkedIn. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah, that's true. Perfect, Kavi. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.